Well, with Democrats winning all kinds of races all around the country, what kind of content can we expect from content creators who are ostensibly left-wing?
For those of you familiar with the Shoe0nHead channel, you know I've harshly criticized the Democratic Party for all my career. Some say too harshly. Frankly, I don't care.
Well, okay then. All right, so let's go ahead and get a couple of things out of the way before we get into the video. First of all, this is Shoe0nHead, who is a self-professed liberal-ish type person, somewhat on the left and very disenfranchised with the Democratic Party. Now, in this, me and Shoe0nHead actually share a lot of agreements. I also am somebody on the left who is thoroughly disenfranchised with the Democratic Party. I do not like a party that will not stand up for trans rights when it needs to and try to throw them under the bus like Chuck Schumer has. I do not like a party that is spending all of its time not actually getting single-payer healthcare pushed and instead going with the, yes, my audience has corrected me, more conservative option of the ACA. I'm not generally a fan of a party that does not do everything in its power to protect union rights, but then pays lip service to them when the Teamsters are in town. So I, like Shu, have plenty of things to say about the Democratic Party and its absolute failure as a party to represent the people who are supposed to be within it. But before I get into any of that, I need to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of dopamine. That's right, we gotta talk about fan art before we get into anything Shoe0nHead or Democratic Party bashing related. Today's fan art comes from Axolotls with Cream, and it is definitely not showing me and Vice Rhino as females with giant line. I don't want to describe what those things are, but the line is definitely going up for some reason, and we seem very happy about it. So thank you, Axo, for that image that I will not be able to get out of my head for years to come. Sometimes I feel like my fan art section is actually just a unique place for people to torture me, but who knows? Maybe that's actually the reason why y'all are here. That said, if you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, drop it to the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's see why you watch Shoe0nHead's channel.
And some say I'm not harsh enough on the Republicans. First of all, true, but let's be honest, that's not why you come here. You go to Kyle Kalinske for that, just like you go to Destiny to see opinions you can hear on CNN, or to Hassan for dog training tips. You come here to hear, golly gee willikers, I'm left-wing and the Democrats have gone crazy. That's the shit you're here for.
So there's definitely an aspect of being super harsh on the left-wing party of the United States and not being harsh enough on the right-wing party that can be seen as, what's the best way to put it? Aiding and abetting the party that's actively engaging in fascism in the United States. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that Shu is actively doing that, but I mean, when you're actively pointing out that that is a thing you're doing, then I am going to throw that out there.
But are the Democrats actually getting their shit together? Or did they simply get lucky in a few blue areas? One of those blue areas being my city, New York, where Democratic Socialist candidate ZOHRAN MAMDANI won the election and will become the new mayor. And a lot of people are like really confused about how this happened. And if you're one of those people, you really need to keep watching. If you don't understand why Mamdani won, I'm sorry to say, but you're kind of like the liberals in 2016 who didn't understand why Trump won.
So this one's weird to me because it kind of reeks of hindsight bias. So I'm not going to actually accuse Shoe0nHead of doing that specifically, but this is a phenomenon I see with a lot of people where an event happens and in hindsight, when we look at the larger picture instead of living in the moment, somebody says, oh, well, we could have always seen it coming. But no, not really. Most people did not see that coming. Most people did not see Donald Trump being the primary candidate of the Republican Party coming, except maybe the Simpsons. But that's because they have weird black magic sorcerers in the back, and now that they have Disney, they've got even more of that. In hindsight, yes, Donald Trump managed to win because he gave people something that they didn't have before, a politician who supposedly was speaking the language of the everyman, not talking like a politician, but talking like your weird drunk uncle at the Thanksgiving Day parade. And for some people, and for some reason, people found that really endearing, at least people on the right wing who don't think about their political policies past the color of the actual person in the seat. And I'm not talking about whether or not they're white. I'm talking about whether they're on the red team. So in hindsight, yeah, Mamdani is doing the same thing that Trump was doing, kind of, sort of, like if you only look at it on a surface level. He is presenting himself as the different candidate to what came before. But technically, Obama did the exact same thing, and Trump did that exact same thing. The only thing that Biden really ran on was not being Trump, but politicians running on being different than what is currently available out on the market is not a new strategy, but the novelty of the strategy is thrown in your face as a method of selling whomever happens to be there. After all, most of Zohran Mamdani's policies are not too far left of previously established people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. He just happens to be a mayor instead of a senator. The thing is, that's just the surface level analysis of things, is the idea that this candidate is different than what has come before and what is generally available on the marketplace of ideas of people in the political parties. There's nothing more to it than the surface level analysis of it, because if you look past Donald Trump, for instance, and you look at the money that's funding him, you look at the people who are writing the policies for him, they're the Heritage Foundation, people who have been writing policies for the conservative network for the last few decades. It's more of the same, dressed up as difference, but it's still just Reagan economics in 2025. History will tell us whether or not Zohran Mamdani is going to be different than the average mayor-elect in New York City, but that is something that I am not educated on the history of. So I guess I'll leave that to people who actually live in New York who are more studied up on that or have opinions that are more salient than mine.
It's actually extremely understandable why Zohran Mamdani won, and it's not just because New York is full of commies or whatever. He is objectively the best Democratic candidate that they've had in a very, very long time. Like, I know the bar is in hell there, but he's young, he's energetic, he's charismatic.
I mean, yeah, he's certainly those things, but I feel like people should be voting more on policy positions than they should on the energy of the candidate. Like, literally, the entirety of the Trump campaign was run on Biden being low energy and not on the actual policies that he had. And then, of course, they ended up running against Kamala Harris instead and ended up winning anyway. I don't know. I don't like people voting based on vibes.
And people are really tired of the White House doubling as a retirement home. And of course, I like many of his economic policies. I like the universal childcare thing, the transportation, flipping off the Christopher Columbus statue. That's the shit I don't like. Bitch, that's our fucking guy. He was a brave Italian explorer who discovered America, and in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
I'm glad we talked about the economic policies for a little bit. Like, that's way better than just voting based on vibes, which is something a lot of people do. But on the Christopher Columbus bit, I, one, recognize this is completely a joke, but two, I want to go ahead and point out that there's this little snippet from history.com. You see, we may actually say that Christopher Columbus was a hero in certain areas of the United States, but even his own brutal methods were scrutinized by the people in his own time. Eventually, those actions that he engaged in that caused countless people to die were actually scrutinized by the Spanish court, and a number of settlers lobbied against him at said Spanish court, accusing Columbus of mismanagement. He was then detained by the king and queen and sent home, losing all of his prestige and ability to govern. This happened because during his time as viceroy and governor, he imposed a bunch of disciplinary policies that included literally parading dead pieces of Native Americans in the streets in order to ward off anybody who would stand in his way. Like, those are not the actions of a hero. These are not the actions of a person to be respected. Like, I recognize this is a joke, but I still I just wanted to respond to it anyway.
I've said this many times, but I don't think the good left-wing policies can even exist alongside the bad left-wing policies. Like, I don't know how you can have free transportation, but also be soft on crime. Like, I don't know, like, in what world does that work out? You can't have nice, clean, free transportation if a bunch of drug addicts and violent felons are going around stabbing people and setting them on fire.
You know, I don't remember anywhere in any of Mamdani's policies that he said he would be soft on crime. And you do realize that being soft on crime is almost a nothing statement, because for one person, being soft on crime could mean that you are looking at the systemic issues that cause crime in the first place and trying to reduce crime that way instead of having like a violent crackdown on it. And for other people, it's just plain doing nothing. Like, I don't know, if we're just talking about more lenient treatment for offenders, again, I don't see that as being soft on crime. That's just trying to be better to your fellow human being. Like, are you sure that you're okay with the state having, I don't know, a monopoly on violence, Shoe? For the actual policies you're probably referring to, you might be talking about him attempting to remove the way that we charge misdemeanors in New York City. To quote Mamdani, he said that police have a critical role to play, but right now we're relying on them to deal with the failures of our social safety net, which is preventing police from doing their actual jobs. That doesn't look like being soft on crime to me. That literally just looks like trying to make sure that funds are being allocated adequately for your police force so that they can actually help people instead of, I don't know, busting up somebody for not having enough money. In a day and age where more and more people are becoming aware of the for-profit nature of prisons in the United States, it astounds me that Shoe would have this take when it flies directly in the face of damn near everything we know about the policing system in the United States. What Mamdani is talking about is trying to lower the penalties for misdemeanor charges because even amongst other countries that are as economically advantaged as we are, like Canada or the United Kingdom, we have a severely disproportionate rate of charging people and incarcerating them. Did you know that in Canada, the average rate of incarceration for somebody who's committed a burglary is about 5 months? The average rate for the United States, 16 months. In England, it's 7 months. Do these incarceration rates make either of those two countries hellholes to live in? No, and I never hear that from anybody who lives in those countries. It's almost as if having the higher incarceration rate is only so that we can keep people in the prison population longer and make it to where it's harder for them to adjust to society later, and therefore let them be a revolving door of people coming back in because we have the highest recidivism rate of any other country. And even that may be entirely done so that we can fuel a prison labor system that is a backbone of several sectors of our economy, which is just a replacement of slave labor. Oh, that's so weird. It's almost like we have a bunch of studies and other things that are written about this very subject that you could read about right now. This is why when somebody like Shoe says that the good left-wing policies like free buses should not exist along the bad left-wing policies like being soft on crime almost seems like a nothing statement to me, because being soft on crime can mean anything to anyone, and if you actually look into how we handle crime in the United States, we have a severely inefficient system if the goal of the system is to make Americans safer. That's not the goal of the system, though. The goal of the system is to provide more free prison labor, or rather taxpayer-funded prison labor, which is far cheaper than any other layer that... It just so happens that that labor is far cheaper than any other in the entire country for us to afford as a population.
You can't have nice things if you don't have rules to enforce those nice things.
Then I guess it's a really good thing that not a single damn person is suggesting we get rid of all of the rules, right?
It's always such a breath of fucking fresh air when I go back to visit my family in the suburbs of Long Island and I go to the CVS and the fucking toothpaste is free from their plexiglass prisons. I shouldn't have to wait 10 minutes for some poor wagey to come unlock the cagey so I can buy fucking shampoo. We don't have to live that way.
Now, I'm not calling Shoe a conservative this time, but I will say that this is basically the problem that I've been having for years with conservatives, where we both look at a problem and agree that it's a shared problem between the two of us, but they end up attacking a symptom of a problem or the wrong target entirely, whereas I think that I'm not doing that. So when I look at the various ways that retail stores, as somebody who's worked retail, can handle this exact problem, I see a bunch of different ways that this could be handled without the plexiglass that would be super convenient for shoppers and everybody alike. But I decided to watch a video on Bloomberg about this to see if maybe I didn't know what I was talking about when I was thinking that this may not entirely be a theft thing. But no, turns out I was actually correct. These plexiglass things are put up to deter thieves, quote, quote, but really what they do is they cover up a problem that the store doesn't want to admit it has, and that is an understaffing problem. You see, any retail store is able to deter theft simply by having more people in the store that can keep an eye on on merchandise. It makes it very hard to actively go out and steal things if there's an employee in every other aisle, basically just walking around, stocking shelves and making sure that things look nice and cleaning the aisles, things you should expect from a retail store anyway. And if they have some time to lean during that, it's not the worst thing in the world because it is still deterring theft. You are paying hourly to deter theft, and that's just a good thing. It also keeps employees on hand to make the customer experience better because they're able to tell you where products are. Instead, retail stores have opted to use the plexiglass because they feel like the loss in sales they get from the plexiglass makes up not for the theft they are deterring, but for the people they don't want to actually pay to be in their store. You see, Shoe and I both agree there's a problem. That plexiglass fucking sucks. I've had to go buy condoms in a place that had the plexiglass there and couldn't buy them because it was 9:30 at night, and Walmart says that they're not gonna let you buy condoms after 9:30 or some stupid shit because the person who has the keys went home, despite the fact that those keys should be left at the Walmart. Like, you and I agree, this is a super inconvenient thing. But the research that I've looked into shows that this has nothing to do with theft. Theft is the scapegoat. Retail stores already have plenty of things that can help them deal with theft. Most notably, cameras and security. You see, theft being something you're worried about ceases to be a good argument when self-checkout exists damn near everywhere. And where self-checkout exists, the one way that theft is deterred is by keeping track of exactly how much people have stolen. A technique that many stores have been engaging in is waiting until somebody has stolen a certain number of goods or a certain dollar threshold of goods so that they can then charge the person with something higher than just petty theft. And this can certainly work as a deterrent, but remember, even those self-checkout lanes, they're there for the exact same reason as the plexiglass. It's an excuse not to hire more labor. It is an excuse to eliminate jobs. Shoe and I have a shared enemy here. The plexiglass is inconvenient. We do not, however, agree on the symptom. You seem to be under the impression that theft is the problem, and my research seems to suggest that it is retail stores being cheap and trying to underpay their staff that is the problem. And I think that's the major difference here. And I see this difference a lot whenever I talk to basically any conservative. We can agree on a problem existing, and then one of us seems to go completely off the rails on how to solve the problem, or looks at something at a surface level instead of doing damn near any research. But I don't want to just sit here and be mean. Like, I could, and I love doing that, but there was a part of this video I found genuinely funny.
The Epstein files are on my desk. Oh, that's great, that's great. That's what we've been waiting for. Well? Oh, they don't exist. Wait, what? Yeah, the Epstein files don't exist. They're a Democrat hoax. But you just said, hey, what the fuck? That's my wallet. Sorry, Israel needs new weapons. Bye. Psst. What do you want, Democrat? Vote for us. Why? What do you have to offer? Hey, that's my wallet again. What are you people doing? Sorry. Israel needs new weapons. Bye.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to criticize this part of the video. It's actually very, very accurate to the experience of being on either side of the political aisle right now. If you're on the left, the Democrats are going to ask for donations all the time, and they're going to still not do things to represent you properly. And then the right wing will just flat out lie to you and say that they're going to do things that help you, and then not do those things that would actively help literally all of us. Literally ever.
Talented people no, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn.
We've talked about this a few times on this channel, actually very recently in the male loser epidemic video. The no talented Americans thing is a myth pushed on us by corpos and billionaires, so they can hire foreign workers who will work for less money and won't unionize. Worker drones who will work under the coercion of deportation, essentially creating infinite scab labor. Even though there are so many Americans in these fields looking for jobs. But those spoiled Americans will ask for a living wage so they can live in a 600-foot square apartment. How dare they? We can't do that. So import 1 billion immigrants. After all, it's good for business.
So once again, we have a set of points that I largely agree with, but there's only a slight problem there. I was nodding my head perfectly fine up until the import the immigrants bit. Like, that felt strange to me. Like, I'm generally all for immigration. If somebody wants to move into the United States in order to get better wages or just to have a better life, then I'm all for that. I love this country, or rather, I love the potential that this country represents. So I would love nothing if not to be proud of it and have more people want to live here. In fact, I was taught my entire life that I'm supposed to be a proud American who's privileged to live in the country that will not pay for his health care. But the framing here seems to be a very immigrants took our gerbs framing, which is, one, a funny South Park episode, and two, I don't think it actually represents what data shows in terms of immigrants and working and unemployment in the United States. While yes, there are plenty of corporations who are completely evil, basically all of them, and they will very quickly go for the cheapest bottom dollar labor that they can find, framing this as a problem of importing immigrants, which could not be what she intended, but is kind of what I got out of it, seems to miss the forest for the trees. It's the careful mate that foreigner wants your cookie argument. Once again, Shoe and I share an enemy here. It's the faceless, heartless, empathyless corporation, hands down. But I feel like a bit of a scapegoat was thrown in at the last second with the immigrant part. I feel like we can live in a world that both has a lot of immigration to America and also has stable and livable wages for American citizens. I feel like as the richest country in the world, we should be able to have both of these things. And I don't know, I feel like I might be not charitable enough when I'm talking about this particular point in her video, but it still kind of skeeved me off a little.
To many Republicans, the solution to the affordability crisis wreaking havoc on Americans is simply trusting the free market, working hard, and if that doesn't work, they bust out all reliable.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up, but the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that.
Ah yes, the classic. Just move. Just move from Economic Zone 67 to Economic Zone 69. I don't know, man. Maybe some people actually like where they live. Maybe they want to make their community better. This is like the libertarian version of just deal with it when you talk to leftists about crime.
Once again, we have a lot of stuff that I want to agree with because holy shit, yeah, Ben Shapiro's take here is completely out of line. People should be allowed to grow up in an area and then get a job in that area and be allowed to live in that area. The jobs of an economic area should be enough to allow you to be in the residential area of wherever you happen to be. Like, that should be the accepted bit. There's also a bit in here about how her and her husband had to move because of his job and stuff, and she doesn't like that. And okay, fair enough. I understand. I also ended up moving for better work opportunities and ended up leaving a lot of people in my family behind. I was not super thrilled about that. And now that I'm a content creator and have the ability to live anywhere I want, I've already bought a house in District 14 of Georgia, where there's nothing. So my roots are already planted, and I completely understand where you're coming from. Ben Shapiro's an idiot, and I like seeing her dunk on Ben. But then we get to this weird part where she says it's like talking to leftists about crime. And I'm sorry, but are we talking about the soft on crime thing again? Because I'll just go back to the fact that I need to have more information on what the fuck you're talking about. Because if you are just talking about people being soft on crime, like you alluded to earlier, one, that statement can mean anything. And two, most leftists don't actually want you to be soft on crime. They want you to slowly erode what actually causes crime. What most leftists, especially me, try to advocate for is an attempt to attack what causes crime to happen in the first place, as opposed to trying to punish crime harder. After all, we have a higher incarceration rate than other first world countries, and yet places like Canada and the United Kingdom actually have lower sentences, have lower penalties for engaging in the exact same crimes than what the United States is, when our methods of punishment are sometimes quadruple the severity of other countries, and yet we have just as many, if not more people people incarcerated, or more people incarcerated in general than other countries, or even better, we keep on having people who leave the incarceration system and come right back because they can't adjust to society because we fucking broke them in the prison system, then you and I can never agree on being softer on crime or harder on crime. We shouldn't be harder on crime. In terms of the first world countries, we are already one of the hardest on crime. We just suck at it. We do it because it makes police officers feel good. It makes them feel like they've got a fucking power trip. But the reality is our entire prison system is just there to make sure that we have a secondary source of labor. Until that system changes, we will continue to have crime rates that suck, and we will continue to have incarceration rates that suck. Now, I want to say it real quick. There's a guy named Stafford Beer. And this guy coined a phrase that I think is far more poignant to today's society than it ever was even in his own time. And that is that the purpose of a system is what it does. His point was to say that there is never a reason to claim that the purpose of a system is to do something that it is constantly failing to do. So if you and I can agree that the purpose of the prison system is to keep dangerous people out of society, but it fails to do that because we keep having these high crime rates, then that can't be the purpose of that system because it's constantly failing at doing that. We can't say that the purpose of the prison system is to rehabilitate people who otherwise couldn't adjust to society, because it's not doing that either. What it is doing is keeping people incarcerated, generating tax revenue, and generating a very steady supply of damn near free labor. After all, the purpose of a system is what it does. So every time I hear this leftist crime thing, I can only think of that heuristic. Our prison system, our incarceration system, our policing system, they are not meant to be tools of protection, because that is not the result that they produce. That is sometimes a pleasant domino effect of them in certain situations. After all, having a police presence at a place generally makes it less likely that you're going to experience one-on-one violence between two individuals that aren't the police officers themselves. Yeah, that can happen, but the purpose of a system is what it does. The end results of a system are what it was programmed to do. We look at things from a systems perspective, especially on the left, as if a system is meant to do one thing and fails at that. But no, our system is currently broken in the sense that it doesn't do what we would want. But our prison system, our methods of dealing with crime do exactly what people in high-level corporations and even our own government want it to do. Again, Shu, you and I will never agree on this crime thing.
Anyway, Nick Fuentes is a far-right commentator and a controversial figure to say the least, but his main topic he covers is Israel, which is an extremely hot topic that many other right-wing commentators seem to not want to touch. And the rare times they do touch it, it's them telling you not to talk about it, questioning why you care so much, or shape-shifting into the woke mob they fought against for so many years, calling you names, calling for you to be censored. What's funny is they didn't care about any of Nick Fuentes' rants on, like, race or women. They only started caring when his rants on Israel were blowing up. Nick recently did an interview with Tucker Carlson, which completely ignited the MAGA civil war that was brewing on the right for some time now. It got so ridiculous that even Chuck Schumer went on the Senate floor and called for a disavowal of Nick Fuentes. Sir, with all due respect, none. Why do politicians need a resolution in the Senate to disagree with a citizen?
All right, so I feel like it would be very important to contextualize who Nick Fuentes is for your audience, because I feel like just saying that he's a populist who criticized Israel, who had a couple of yikesy takes in regards to women and other things, really whitewashes who this person is.
Documentary. I came home, I told my parents, I'm like, Mom, Dad, the Holocaust didn't happen. And they were like, we did not raise you this way. I remember coming home from college and my second semester, you know, I got home in the spring and I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe well, you are saying we did not raise you like this. I'm like, I can't believe you're not being chill about this.
A person who celebrates the life of Adolf Hitler, a person who openly says that the Holocaust didn't happen. This is a modern day Nazi. This is a person who you would gleefully kill in Wolfenstein. In fact, I'm pretty sure somebody's probably modded Nick Fuentes' face on NPCs in that game. I also feel like whitewashing Nick Fuentes in any way, shape, and form is probably not a good idea either because, well, he wouldn't support you talking in the first place.
I'm not surprised why women don't support me. Women are irrational and sensitive. It's just like my whole life. My whole life. Because I was always like the class clown. I was always like bullying women. And women have always been like simultaneously charmed, but also... like, oh, stop it. Oh, you're so annoying. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. That's how women are with like, with my personality type. You're like a rascal, you're like a bastard. And they're kind of like, cause I'm like a rule breaker and stuff. And so women simultaneously are intrigued by that, but they also have to pretend like they're not, because women, it's sort of like how a lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
He's just such a pleasant individual. Well,
it's like I said, he thought it was funny putting on the cat ears, but all it did is made me want to hold him down and rape him. That's on you, pal.
He's just a swell guy. He's just a single little citizen, just a little dude.
Because you took the pledge. You took the loyalty pledge. I will kill, rape, and die for Nick Fuentes. Raise your right hand. All right, everybody raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I will kill, rape, and die for Nicholas J. Fuentes.
So on the one hand, yeah, it's really dumb for Schumer to go up there and pay lip service to not being a horrible person by trying to disavow Nick Fuentes on the Senate. But like all that does is engage in the Streisand effect. Now suddenly more people are going to be talking about him. It's literally a move that you do only if you want people to keep talking about this motherfucker. And let's also point out that it's not just his criticisms of Israel that he engages in. Because after all, like I pointed out before, conservatives and leftists oftentimes will agree on what a problem is. So me and Fuentes agree Israel's a problem. I think Israel's a problem because it's an ethno-state that tries to genocide people. He thinks it's a problem because it has Jews and Hitler was based. So yeah, I can understand where Schumer's coming from. I just think this is the worst way he could have gone about it. I also think there's a responsible way to talk about Nick Fuentes.
Hello, I have gathered you all here today to disavow Hitler Bussy 420. People can't afford groceries, Charles.
Again, the point of this being a pointless thing to get on the Senate floor to talk about when people have other things that are far more pertinent to them, I agree with.
Ben Shapiro, in particular, has spent the last few months extremely confused and angry about ZOHRAN MAMDANI and Nick Fuentes becoming popular in the mainstream, all while his numbers continue to drop. I honestly don't think he understands what is happening here, so I am going to explain to you, Ben, what exactly is going on here. The American dream does not exist anymore for most people. Young people followed advice that worked for older generations, and it got them nowhere. Young people are tired of this stale, moldy, old, dead consensus that has dominated American politics for a very long time. The one that dragged us into all these foreign wars and sold us out for some cheap plastic shit from China. Young people are tired of being told to sit down and shut up and pledge allegiance to the free market in a country that seems to not give a shit about them, as well as a foreign country they have absolutely no connection to. For so long, establishment hacks and establishment shills looked at the issues bothering the people and just kind of dismissed them. Can't afford to live where you grew up? Just move. Don't like that the toothpaste is locked behind plexiglass? Just deal with it. Think it's kind of f***ed up how you work 40 hours a week and still can't afford to pay rent? What are you, some kind of communist? You don't like funding a genocide with your tax dollars? What are you, anti-Semitic? If you don't address the issues of the people will gravitate towards those who are addressing those issues.
So I want to agree with this point because it's not untrue, but like, you know what marketing is, right, Shu? Because I feel like Nick Fuentes is very good at marketing. And what he's done is not addressed the problems of the people, because there is no solution that Nick Fuentes provides that will actually improve the life of anybody. His suggestions will make people feel better about themselves because of a false superiority complex, and then they will inadvertently spend their life blaming the Jews or women for why they can't get laid or can't afford food. Which, of course, makes Jewish women a double whammy. But now that I've said that, Google's going to hear that, and it's going to come up in my Pornhub results. Although she is technically right about Ben Shapiro losing numbers, while he's certainly got numbers that would make any YouTuber salivate, he has lost 30,000 subscribers in the last month, which is a terrifying amount for anybody to lose. Despite that, though, he's still earning thousands of dollars per day, and I don't know, he seems like he's doing just fine. That said, how does Mamdani want to address things? Well, he wants to make things more affordable for people by actually changing things within the system, whereas Nick Fuentes argues that getting more Nazis in government is going to somehow make things better. Like, yeah, injecting a bunch more racism and bad targeting practices are suddenly going to make the economic lives of everybody far better. Better than affordable groceries and affordable transportation would. I feel like arguing that these two are the same because they have vaguely populist methods of delivering their message is nothing but surface level analysis drivel. It ignores the core of their arguments. And I fast forwarded ahead through the rest of Shu's video to see if she ever gives any criticism to Fuentes other than effectively just kind of soft shouting out a fucking Nazi, but she doesn't. There's no pushback to who he is, just says he's got some edgy takes on women. And then, you know, nothing else. I think this is completely irresponsible for her as a content creator.
It's not Mamdani's fault he won. It's yours. It's not Nick Fuentes' fault he's popular. It's yours. The tragedy of Ben Shapiro is that he led a life worshipping the free market, only to lose in the free marketplace of ideas.
I think Ben Shapiro's a piece of shit, and I have no love for the guy at all. But I will say that by the numbers, again, he's doing fine. Losing 30,000 subscribers is a very high amount, but he still sees monthly subscriber growth besides that per each video. Like, by the analytics, he's not losing in that realm. He's actually doing just fine. Also, saying that Ben Shapiro complaining about Nick Fuentes is the reason he's popular, you know, I can kind of get it. I actually kind of can. So one of the cool things about the Streisand effect is the longer that you have people who are larger than a smaller content creator talking about that content creator, the more that content creator's name is going to be part of the social zeitgeist. And the longer that happens, the more fame and eventually infamy the person will gain. And since Nick Fuentes basically owns his own streaming platform, he's impossible to fully deplatform unless an ISP is willing to gut him at that point. So this is one of those points that I originally wanted to disagree with, but I end up kind of agreeing on, but not in the way that I think Shu probably intended. I agree that the Streisand effect does, in fact, has contributed a ton to his popularity, but to say that it's the same thing as Mamdani is a little weird. A person with a guaranteed platform in a mayoral race is different than a person who, let's face it, organically grew a entire audience of losers and Nazis together to create a solid base. These phenomenons are technically started by two people who are addressing issues that people seem to see, but the difference is one of them is actively targeting systems that need to be taken down or reformed, and the other one is saying the Jews done it and then sweeping everything else under the rug. Now, am I criticizing Shoe0nHead for playing defense for Nick Fuentes here? No, because technically she didn't. But she also didn't contextualize who he is to an audience that may or may not be aware of who he is. And that is something that I find horrendous. Originally, that was the main thing that I wanted to talk about in this video, but there was a lot more that I ended up having to go over. A lot of stuff that I ended up agreeing with Shoe0n, and a ton of stuff that I ended up disagreeing with Shoe0n. Or the far more interesting bits, the parts where we agree, but come at a completely different attack angle, one of which I think is effective, and one of which I think is being presented by Shoe0nHead. That said, I don't think I have anything else of note in this video that I personally want to cover, so all I'll do is say thank you all for watching. I know that as I've been doing more edited content and moving away from some of my live stream contents as I've been sick lately, this is a bit of a change for some of you, but for many of you, this is the kind of content that you came for me for like 4 to 5 years ago to begin with. So, I mean, let me know what you think in the comment section below. That said, like I said, that's all I've got for this one. If there's anything y'all want me to cover in the future, let me know in the comment section below. But with all that, insert end of video tagline here.
Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Blitzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitt, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.